for Tuesday, February 8th to order. First is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
This is Chuck, so moved.
This is Carly, I'll second.
Motion by Councilmember Doherty, second by Councilmember Johnson. All in favor? Or Eric, roll call.
You're muted, Eric.
Yeah, there we go. All right. Councilmember Doherty.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Liljegren.
Yes.
Councilmember Runk.
Yes.
Mayor McCumber.
Yes. Next is council staff reports. Since our last meeting, I had the Metropolitan Interfaith Council on Affordable Housing, Coalition of Utility Cities, and worked with our lobbyist on getting letters sent to the Public Utilities Commission. Some of the information that's in that, and then what was added yesterday pertains to some of the information that we have in one of our bills about the progression of after the closing of the power plant, when they're going to remove things, remediation and all that type of thing. I had Small Cities board meeting, had a call on Friday, was on a call on Friday with Governor Walz, also related to the power plant. Then I attended the League of Minnesota Cities Leadership Conference last Friday and Saturday. And then this next week I have Regional Council of Mayors, have a check-in call with our lobbyist, and then I will be at a meeting with management and budget next week. And then just as a reminder for council members, the League of Minnesota Cities Conference is still going ahead for Duluth in June 22nd to the 24th. Okay, this is gonna, hopefully this, hang on a second. It's June 22nd to the 24th. And if you're interested in going, be advised to get your rooms booked ASAP, because they're going to be filling up. If you go on the league website, you'll be able to find all the information regarding it. The agenda is not up yet, but the hotels, the block for the hotels is in. And that's all I have. So Councilmember Doherty.
I have nothing to report.
Wonderful. Councilmember Johnson.
I also have nothing to report.
Thank you. Councilmember Liljegren.
Oh, let's make that 3 then. I have nothing to report as either, Mayor.
Okay. Did you get the information for the next JASB meeting coming up, Mike?
No, I did not see that.
Okay, it's February 23rd, I believe.
February 23rd?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I can forward it to you. And then Councilmember Runk.
I've got CVB tomorrow, and Watershed will be meeting a week from Thursday. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other staff reports? Then Jennifer, the recycling award.
Mayor and Council, Judy Delich at 15073 63rd Street North was chosen as the most recent recycling award winner.
Thank you. Then visitor public comments section. This is a time for anyone that's on the call or on the meeting that would like to address the council on anything that's not on the agenda. Jennifer, is there anyone that would like to speak? Thank you. So we'll move on to the consent agenda, which is approved bills and investments, check 67785 to 67841 for a total of $302,895.43. Approved city council minutes for January 25th, 2022. Approved resolution granting the application of Ducks Unlimited St. Croix Valley chapter to conduct a one-day raffle at the St. Croix Event Center on May 5th, 2022. Approve renewal of consumption and display permit for St. Croix Yacht Club. Approve appointment of Randy Thorson to the Parks and Trails Commission for a second term. Approve National League of Cities City Summit registration, and approve resolution supporting housing and local decision-making authority.
I'll move the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Runk, second by Councilmember Liljegren. Eric?
Councilmember Doherty.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Liljegren.
Yes.
Councilmember Runk.
Yes.
Mayor McCumber.
Yes. We have no public hearings for tonight, so we'll move on to old business, which is Norrell Avenue, South Frontage Road project bidding update. Eric, is this you or Lee?
Well, Lee, I don't know if we didn't have a whole lot to generally add for you tonight, but we just wanted to touch base with you, tell you what the numbers are, what you see, and then speculate on what our next steps are relative to the budget and the timeline for award and whatever documents we need to sort out with MnDOT. So Lee, I don't know if you wanted to jump in first or.
Just a couple of items as far as going forward. It will take a couple of weeks for the state to review the bids and concur with them, which is typical on a project like this that's funded this way. Also, the city will need to execute the cooperative agreement with the state, which could take 2 to 4 weeks, I suppose. So all those things need to occur before award. So that's kind of all I have to really add, I think.
Right. And Lee, thank you again for all your work on this. We know it's a challenging project, and certainly the budget is difficult with it being significantly higher than the 2019 estimate. The numbers received in the $3.1 million being the low bid from Eureka Construction also include some MnDOT elements that we have to kind of sort out and know those are their costs, but we will have associated costs with review and execute a separate cooperative agreement for engineering costs. At the end of the day, we will ask MnDOT if they'd be willing to provide some more dollars. It certainly can't hurt to ask. We do have a volley to MnDOT to that regard in with Adam Josephson now. Lee and I are meeting with Betty tomorrow to talk about where your potential funding sources are. And ultimately we'll bring a source and use back to you, which will outline full funding. But we're going to have to parse together sources from obviously our grant dollars, our legislative dollars, the money you have set aside from previous year's budget surpluses. However, we're going to need to find more dollars out of your park dedication, potentially related to trails, potentially from your stormwater fund, and potentially funding left over from your TIF 1-1, which is Mr. Noldy's development, which you have some surpluses there too. So we'll piece all this together and try to give you a clean action sometime in March or maybe early April. Lee, I defer to you on that schedule. So that's what we will have to tell you.
Once the bids are awarded, how soon do you think construction is going to start then? Hopefully it doesn't start too late in the year.
Well, the contractor is well aware of what the completion date is. They're also aware of the funding sources and what it takes to get through that. Typically you don't see a lot of construction activity until load limits come off. So if we award in April, beginning of April, I would think by May 15th, beginning of June, they should be quite ready to start, which should give them enough time to get the project done.
Okay, thank you. It'll probably line up with what MnDOT's going to be doing to 36 with the resurfacing, won't it?
Correct.
It'll be messy out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else on that? Does anybody have any questions for Lee or Eric? Okay, then we'll move on then to new business, which is amendment to CC 1115 Fire Code adopting 2020 MSFC Appendix P. Is Julie on? If not, Eric?
Yeah, Julie's on and Steve is here with us too, but I'll jump in and staff has discussed potential amendment to 1115 of the fire code, generally relating to communication inside buildings. And we do have a situation at the high school where radio transmission is difficult. So in order to require certain elements to be changed moving forward for new buildings, the city should adopt part of this fire code Appendix P. And that hopefully will resolve issues in the future for new construction. For example, if that apartment building went up or some other major facility was constructed. So that's the real high piece of it. So I defer to Steve and Julie to add on to that.
Julie, do you want to add on?
I do, if you don't mind. Chief Hansen has actually done some outreach with Officer Paradise. They reached out to the Washington County Radio Systems Manager and have done a walkthrough of the school building. We have several areas that are fair, and the rest are pretty much poor to absent at times. So the Appendix P also does give us some guidelines and tools to work bringing that building into compliance through terms that we determine through the city, as well as when they come into repair, systems become obsolete. So what we would like to do is amend the ordinance. We have to amend the ordinance to adopt Appendix P in order to make those provisions mandatory. And by adopting those, we'd like to set the public hearing to discuss the details to that adoption in a little more detail and hopefully get blessing for that change.
Thank you. Chief, did you have anything to add?
Not much else to that other than it's been an issue for public safety for quite some time in the code books. Trying to get this passed. As far as assisting, basically what we're asking is these businesses or these institutions to put in a booster system at their expense and required by state and the fire code here, so that we can actually transmit when we're in their basement of the parking garage, be it some of these large structures we have, or at the high school. And obviously those construction materials, as we all know, the high school, the many rooms and the many walls that our portable radios just cannot get through. And with any other future development, it's not really a nice to have anymore. It's a must need to have. So that's it.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the council? Is there a motion to approve setting a public hearing for amendment consideration on February 22nd?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Rugg, second by Councilmember Johnson. Eric?
Councilmember Doherty,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Liljegren,
Yes.
Councilmember Runk,
Yes.
Mayor McCumber.
Yes. Next is local road speed limit, statutory and local limits. Mike?
Yeah, I was contacted by a resident who noted that Bayport has now changed their speed limits to 20 miles an hour on their local streets. That this is something that a change in the law was made a couple of years ago, I believe, by the state to allow, in certain cases, for the city to lower the limit below the 30 miles an hour. Personally, I have no strong feelings on it either way, but I said we would look into it. And what I would like to do then is to kind of have staff get some basic information as to what we would have to do and as far as how we would handle it and potential costs, and that we at some point have, well, during the work session, we have a presentation so we can decide how to move forward.
I was contacted a couple months ago, and it might be the same person, and I brought it to Eric at that time, and he was gathering some information, and then for us to possibly put that on our goals, we have our goal setting session to discuss it. I don't know how many remember we did a speed study quite a few years ago, and it was costly, and it backfired a little bit because sometimes when you ask to reduce the speed limit, the state comes back and says, no, we're going to raise it instead. But I think it's really good to have this discussion. So I don't know, Mike, are you considering just setting it with our goal session or something separate with a work session?
Well, I would think even if we discuss it at goal setting, what we would end up doing is setting time at a work session. So
Sure.
I would think that we can just put it down to a work session at some
Okay.
point in the future here.
Okay. So is there a motion to set it for a future work session? And do you have a timeline in mind?
Probably I'd ask for some guidance from staff is, if they need any particular amount of time before then.
We did, I did talk with Lee a little bit last week. I think I sent out some information to all of you some point early last week. I don't remember, that showed there was the speed study from Bayport and some of their justification. So anyway, so short conversation with Lee is, what does it cost to do that kind of report? So he's diligently working on that. So I think that's going to be one of the more important elements of what is the cost of such study. And I would think based on that, maybe late April would be the best timeline. I think we've got a few other things in the hopper right now.
Yeah, we still have to make up a few things like having our team building and the advisory committee meetings too. So late April probably would be great.
Yeah, I think we could just go with that and plan at some point when we have a work session in late April to put this on the agenda.
Okay.
I would
Is that your
suspect we'll
motion?
yeah, I would suspect we'll have other items come up in the future too. So
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Runk, second by Councilmember Liljegren. Eric?
Councilmember Doherty,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Liljegren,
Yes.
Councilmember Runk,
yes,
Mayor McCumber.
Yes. Next we have Summer Park Programming 2022. Jennifer?
Yes, Mayor and Council, as you recall, our summer park program, our very successful summer park program run by Gina Zulli, she has decided to step down in that role. And you authorized a timeline for city staff to seek a replacement for that position for at least the 2022 year. So the Parks and Trails Commission, at your direction, they did hold interviews. We received 2 applications. And after the interviews, they had made a recommendation to the city council that the city council consider extending the offer to Annie Catherine Barris, who is also a Parks and Trails Commissioner at the moment, which she will, if this is offered and accepted, she will step down from that role so that there are no conflicts and she will take on the summer park program solely. The Parks and Trails Commission felt she was a really good fit for the position. She has a degree in early childhood education. She is also a nature-based preschool teacher, and they also had an opportunity to work with her on the Parks and Trails Commission, so they know her work ethic and her skills through that. So they felt this was a strong candidate for the position. So they are recommending that the council authorize staff to offer the contracted position to Annie Catherine Barris for 2022 for the summer park program coordinator position.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Jennifer on that? Chuck?
No, I was gonna say I would make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilmember Doherty, second by Councilmember Johnson. Eric?
Sure. Councilmember Doherty,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Liljegren,
Yes.
Councilmember Runk.
Yes.
Mayor McCumber.
Yes. And then we have tennis sanitation fee increase request. Jennifer?
Okay, Mayor and Council, tennis sanitation had requested from the city council, from the city, a 4% increase on collection and recycling fees. In addition to the appliance fees, yard waste fees. In December of 2021, they submitted that request. The city staff at that time had submitted a response to them denying that request, as it wasn't consistent with the contract that the city has with tennis sanitation. Subsequent to that, the Consumer Price Index released their numbers for 2021. And that, as part of the contract with tennis sanitation in the city, is that that either party may seek an increase or a decrease in fees based on that consumer price index. You'll see in the memo that I submitted in the packet that the index did show an increase for 2021, and so consistent with that, then staff is recommending, and in addition to the materials that they submitted, staff is recommending that the city council approved their 4% increase. According to the contract, that would then take effect July 1st, 2022.
Thank you, Jennifer.
You'll see we do have Angela on and Willie from Tennis Sanitation if you have any questions, or if they have any questions, or if you have any questions of me.
Does council have any questions? It was a very thorough report. Thank you, Jennifer.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I just got a couple questions on the overall contract again, similar to the ones that I've had before on this contract. Just looking at the report that was put together, I just struggle with this from the standpoint that the city has never asked for, and this has nothing to do with tennis and how they do their job and pick up their garbage around here. I think it's excellent. I have no complaints. I have no residents' complaints whatsoever. But it's with the contract that I continue to keep struggling here. If you look back from 2015 through 2021, and you got an average of that of a plus 1.13%, the city has never gone back and asked for anything when we've had major, above and beyond, and tennis is above and beyond that. And now we're coming back, and it's been constant almost every year coming back for an increase. And I just struggle with this. And I guess it's something that we'll have to discuss when we look to new contract, when this contract is up and contracts, whether or not we go for this many years or how. But I struggle with a contract that was, put out there and bid on, and ultimately bid on and accepted, bid on quite a bit lower than the original contract we have. And now we keep struggling constantly with here we need an increase, here we need an increase, here we need an increase. So maybe from now on, the city needs to start to look at when there is a positive in the other direction that we ask for that. I don't think we've done that, and I don't care to do that. But if you look at it over the average, it's almost equal. So plus we've a number the council has, I think, in my voting in the nay, but there has been increases approved. So just to let you know, that's where I stand. I stand in the opposition tonight for this increase.
Michael, if I'm able to touch base a little bit on that. The one thing that's very different with the Oak Park Heights contract is that you guys only base it off of the CPI. All of our other city contracts base it off of dump increases and the cost that it actually costs us to dispose of the trash. Looking at the disposal increase just from 2015 to 2022, that rate just to dump the waste at the R&E board has gone up almost 55%. So it has more than doubled in the time that we've held your contract. So I think the biggest thing is just looking at that CPI is not fair to all parties, where you do need to look at more than just the value of the dollar with CPI. You need to look at fuel costs, disposal costs, the cost of getting parts to repair the trucks, and the cost of doing business is very different than just that one number with CPI. So just when you're looking at those further contracts here, when this contract is up, I would just suggest looking at more than just that CPI to make it fair for both parties.
And that certainly could be discussed at the time when for contract renewal.
Yep.
Are there other comments?
I think that's true. The part that I struggle with is it's a contract. We let it out. Everyone knew the same information that bid on it, and it was CPI that we were using. I agree with you that for us to, maybe now in the next contract, that's something that needs to be looked at. But that's where, it's just where I struggle with in all the contracting work I do. It's here we have a contract that both parties agreed to underneath that and that you guys bid on. And
Yep, and Michael, in part of that contract as well, are pieces that state that we're allowed to ask for increases in all of these fields. So we're not doing anything outside of the contract requirements. We're just simply asking for a fair rate increase to help cover our costs.
Okay, thank you, Angela. Other council members, any comments? Is
It
there
looks
a
like we
motion?
might have a public comment from Mr. Kramer.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I'm confused by Mr. Liljegren in that saying that this isn't part of the contract when, if in fact, one actually reads the contract, it says that the party, tennis, may in fact ask for a raise of this kind. So they are, to keep saying, and that we've heard this many, many times before, to say that somehow this is outside the contract just is not correct. They are allowed under the contract, under a provision of the contract, to in fact request this kind of an increase. And it just is confusing to me how we can hear over and over again that it's not part of the contract when in fact it is. So I would suggest that you approve it, and I would suggest that you raise the rate. And I also point out that the council itself looks at its own salaries from time to time and raises those for the future because of cost of living. And I think it's totally appropriate in this instance.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer.
Thank you.
Well, Jennifer, thank you for your work on this. Is there a motion to approve the increase as according to staff's recommendations?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion by
Madam Mayor,
council. Motion by.
sorry,
Motion.
we had one other thing to mention or ask.
Council, you have a motion and a second on the floor.
Yeah, yes, we do. So I'm sorry, Angela, we'll have to go ahead with that.
That's fine.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Runk, second by Councilmember Johnson. Eric?
Councilmember Doherty,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Liljegren,
no,
Councilmember Runk.
Yeah.
Mayor McCumber.
Yes. Okay, then we'll move on to other council items or announcements. Are there any announcements or of any kind?
I had one question. Since we postponed a lot of our work sessions, I was just wondering if there might be an interest in moving our goal setting virtual or within this month and kind of restructuring it so we're not pushing things back out for a month and a half.
I think that would be fine. I think the team building, when we get to that, really should be in person. But the goal setting, I think we could probably get that started on a work session, maybe prior to the next council meeting, or is there another date that might be of interest to someone?
I was thinking either before our next council meeting on Zoom or potentially like that Thursday would be outside of the 30 days or Monday, the 28th would also be outside of the 30 days where we could do it in person if we wanted to.
Well, we could do it Zoom before then, and then if there's any follow-up, then we could have a work session prior to the next council meeting that we're in person.
That works.
Okay. Can everybody, do you have a date in mind, Carly?
Our next meeting would be the 22nd. So the 22nd at 5 o'clock.
That sounds fine. Does that work for everybody else? I'm not hearing any
Okay.
no's, so we can
Okay, yeah.
go ahead, Mike.
Okay, we did cancel the workshop that we were gonna have with Stantec.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
That was the one, the Stantec one, I believe was the one that we had scheduled for the 22nd. Is that one canceled?
That one was canceled too because we wanted to have that in person.
I thought we canceled everything until March.
We did. But if we're going to do just goal setting just by Zoom, but the other ones, I think we should be in person and have those in March.
Okay, I wasn't clear on the Stantec one as to whether or not we had to be in person for that one.
Well, Lee, what do you think? It sounded like you had a pretty lengthy presentation for that. Where did Lee go?
For the King plant, yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
So let's leave that in March so we have enough time for that and everybody, because the advisory group was also invited for that as well, right? Or is it just your own presentation?
I believe the advisory panel was also invited.
So let's keep that as in person. So Carly, did you want to make a motion to set the work session by Zoom for the goal setting for the 22nd?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Johnson, second by Councilmember Doherty. Eric?
Councilmember Doherty,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Liljegren,
Yes.
Councilmember Runk,
Yes.
Mayor McCumber.
Yes. Are there any other items or announcements or ideas? Okay, so is
I
there
move we adjourn.
A second.
motion by Councilmember Runk, second by Councilmember Johnson? Eric?
Councilmember Doherty,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Liljegren,
Yes.
Councilmember Runk. And Mike, did you say?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And Mayor McCumber.
Yes. Well, thank you, everyone, and try and stay healthy. Enjoy a little bit of the warm weather while we have it.
Recording
Everyone.
stopped.